All right, last night we saw UFC 288. Aljamain Sterling retained the bantamweight title in a very, very competitive fight. Look, listen, Henry Cejudo, the king of cringe, the greatest combat sports athlete of all time, whatever you want to call him. He came back after 3 years away from the octagon and gave a very, very good account of himself. That was an entertaining fight. That was mixed martial arts at a very, very high level. Now, listen, on some of the other parts of the card, we can't say the same thing. We're going to talk about Gracie in a little bit. That was a relic. That was a throwback. It is not 1993. It's the year 2023. And what we saw in the main event between Aljamain and Henry Cejudo was modern day mixed martial arts fought at a very high level. Now, apparently, there's a bit of controversy regarding the scorecards. Not from where I'm standing. Not from where, if you ask me. I thought Aljamain Sterling won that fight 3 rounds to 2. Granted, they were all very, very close rounds. But let's talk about it, okay? So, Henry Cejudo, we know about their wrestling accolades. Former gold medalist at the Olympics, okay? 2-weight division champion. Aljamain Sterling did not accentuate his 7-inch reach advantage. He did not jab and jog around the octagon. He wasn't on his bike. He wasn't playing it safe. He went right at the former champion and pushed the pace initially. Super aggressive right from the opening bell. You got to respect that. Listen, people like to trash Aljamain Sterling. They like to talk a little bit of shit. And listen, maybe he plays the heel role. Maybe he doesn't help himself on the microphone. You know, didn't really go down well afterwards on the microphone. His own people were booing him for crying out loud. But in terms of what he did in the octagon, in terms of his fighting ability, I mean, come on. He was sensational. He went out there, he pushed the pace. Against a guy like Henry, you might say, don't throw any kicks. A wrestler's going to catch the kicks. Aljamain didn't care. He was throwing body, leg, head, mixing them up one after the other, using his jabs, using all 8 limbs, punches, kicks, knees, elbows, as opposed to Henry that threw a few kicks, but predominantly was relying on the hands. And when he was throwing the hands, he was loading up far too much. He was looking for that knockout, that home run, that one-hitter quitter. He was swinging like a maniac, and a lot of the time he was hitting fresh air. Now, when they first engaged in a clinch in round 1, Henry took him down, got the body lock, took him down with relative ease. And we thought, oh, here we go. There it is. There's the wrestling caliber. There's the difference. But Aljamain got up. Not only did he get up, he got a takedown of his own, landed some great knees, and then almost took the back. Okay? So it was a very competitive first round, but I thought that he won it. He got the first round. Now, when you look at the stats here, round 1, Aljamain landed 20 of 34 strikes, 7 of 18, but they took each other down, but it was Aljamain with a better control time and almost took the back, as I said. Now, round 2, Cejudo answered very well. He came out strong. He came out he came out and matched the aggression. He came out swinging. He came out hard. Landed 29 of 55. Aljamain landed 31 of 53. But however, I still think that Henry Cejudo won that round. Okay, now, other than that, rounds 3 and 4, Aljamain came out and answered big time. Again, if you look at the strikes, 25 to 15 in round 3, 36 to 19 in round 4. Clearly for Aljamain Sterling, but also what he was doing, he was pushing the pace, he was pushing the action, he was being the aggressor, he was shooting takedowns. Now, a lot of people were talking, saying, well, he stuffed those takedowns, he sprawled on those takedowns, and, you know, he was maybe looking for a 3-quarter Nelson, he was trying to look for a head and arm choke or a front choke from north-south position. But it doesn't matter, right? Aljamain was pushing the pace and he was also outlanding the strikes. So therefore, I thought he won those rounds. Round 5, listen, Henry Cejudo's something special. He went out there, right? He had a big, emptied the tank in round 5, a big effort, a big push. I think he knew he was behind, even though his own corner was saying that he might have been up, which I don't agree with. I'm not kicking his corner. I'm just saying, listen, in a close fight, you've always got to err on the side of caution. You've always got to say, bro, you could be behind here. You need a finish to win this fight. But still, that's how Henry fought. Round 5 went out there, 27 to 24. Okay, outstruck him a little bit. But still, when it went to a split decision, I agree with that. 3 rounds to 2 to Aljamain Sterling. You know, some of the judges made a mistake. Derek Cleary, should I say. It should be Derek, I can't see Cleary. He gave round 5 to Aljamain Sterling. So that could have swung it Sorry, pardon me. He gave round 5 to Henry's. To Aljamain Sterling. What am I saying? Losing my mind here. That could have really messed it up. That could have given it to Henry Cejudo. Listen, either way, it was a close fight. It was high-level mixed martial arts. Well done to Aljamain Sterling. Now, we saw the trouble afterwards. We saw what happened in the ring. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Sean O'Malley comes in, of course. They're going back and forth. They're getting in each other's faces. They're talking a little bit of crap. You know, Sugar Sean O'Malley's dressed up like Michael Jackson from Thriller, takes his jacket off, because, hey, listen, it's the promo business. Who grabs the jacket? Merab Dvalishvili. I mean, that guy stole the show. Didn't even throw a punch. Throws on the jacket straight away. And even though Aljamain and Sugar Sean, they're talking crap, they're going back and forth, all I'm looking at is Merab Dvalishvili in the background with his little cheeky smile, so proud of himself. And then when the conversation goes back to Aljamain, because he just defeated Henry Cejudo, a great win, Dvalishvili jumps on top of the octagon and he's giving it one of these. So then, O'Malley, them two get into it. They're kicking off. It was great. It was great. Maybe you might say it was a little bit of an ugly moment in the sport. Hey, listen, this is fighting. We're trying to knock each other out. Emotions are running high. Adrenaline is pumping through the body like crazy. Things happen. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Looking forward to Aljamain and Sugar Sean O'Malley. That'll be a tremendous fight. Henry Cejudo. People are saying, is he going to come back? Listen, I think what happened with Henry Cejudo, and this is not me talking crap about Aljamain, almost said Aljamain. That's Henry's putting that in my head. I'm not talking bad about Aljamain. He was the bigger guy. He had a 7-inch reach advantage, okay? He could comfortably probably fight at 145. Henry Cejudo fought at 125. Aljamain could never make 125. He was the bigger man. He was the stronger man. He was the more aggressive. He was the better fighter. But weight classes are there for a reason. And I think if Henry was bigger, then he might have won that fight because it was that close. So him going up to 145 like he was talking about against Volkanovski, I don't think that's a good idea. I can't see Henry Cejudo being a mid-card fighter, a guy that's going to just, fight other contenders. He's in it for gold. He's in it for glory. He's in it for history and legacy. And you got to respect that. Now, a rumor was that he was coming back out of retirement because of the money, maybe a financial situation. Listen, he's a big draw. You don't want to leave money. You don't want to leave money there and not collect it. You'll regret that when you're older. So maybe we still see him fight, or maybe he hangs up the gloves. Only he can answer that decision. And whatever he does, I support it. Henry Cejudo is a credit to mixed martial arts. He's a class act. He fights his ass off every single time. And that was a great fight. Now, from one great fight to a maybe not so great fight, I am, of course, talking about the co-main event. Belal Muhammad taking on Glibert Burns. It wasn't the most rock'em sock'em robots, for want of a better expression, but it was a solid fight. It was competitive, but the storyline was simple. Listen, Glibert Burns took it on short notice. So did Belal Muhammad. So you got to give both men credit. It wasn't the most non-stop action-packed fireworks fight, but Glibert Burns was fighting with one arm essentially. Okay, we don't know what happened to it. In the first round, he went for a takedown. As he went for a takedown, Belal threw a kick, landed with the knee in the shoulder. And then after that, he never threw the left hand again. So he was just kicking and throwing a right hand. Now, a lot of critics are out there saying that Belal should have put more pressure on him. He was essentially fighting a one-arm fighter. He should have hunted him down. He should have gone for the kill. You got to understand, Belal Muhammad's in a tough spot. He's on a 9-fight unbeaten streak. He feels he's not getting the recognition, not getting the crack of the whip. He's not getting what he deserves. And if he had lost that fight, he would have been right back to the end of the queue again. So there's a lot of pressure there for Belal Muhammad. A lot of pressure for Glibert Burns. Listen, I am such a fan of Glibert Burns. I love the way that he fights. I love what he brings to the table. And he's such a class act and a nice guy outside of the octagon. And I understand because he was injured, but he looked like a mentally broken man there. And I say that with respect because I think he knew. It's very, very hard to fight in mixed martial arts with two hands, let alone just one hand. What you're going to be able to do is at the end of a tough round, put that in the rearview mirror, then move into the next round with a fresh confidence, with your mind still strong. Once the mind goes, the body follows shortly after. The mind controls everything. The body can be broken and the mind still gets you to win a fight. I think the mind was broken. I think Glibert was mentally defeated. You could see it in his face. You could see the look on him. He was so annoyed. He was so mad. He was so angry. And maybe he was starting to feel sorry for himself. I think the reality is, look at the schedule. We love fighters that go out there And, you know, they lay it all on the line, and they'll fight anyone, anytime, any place, anywhere, all that type of stuff. You send the contract, I'll knock them down, yada, yada, yada. But that comes at a price. You know, he's fought 3 pay-per-views this year. We're only in the start of May. You know, it's the wear and tear on the body. It's the cutting weight. It's the actual fight. It's the preparation, the training camps. And not just physically, mentally as well. You know, and would he have been injured? Was it the kick from Belal? We don't know. But would that injury to the arm have happened had he not been putting himself through such an insane schedule? Probably not. And it's such a shame because now we're taking away from Belal Muhammad. You know, and listen, granted, there was a lot of critics out there. Conor McGregor was talking a bit of crap, you know, but and I think a lot of people were. I was just speaking to some friends. They didn't enjoy that. But for Belal, there was a lot of pressure as well. Now, listen, he gets the title fight now. He's going to fight the winner of Colby versus Leon. We'll see how that all plays out. But you've got to give credit to Belal Muhammad. Remember, he took it on short notice as well, and he'd just been through Ramadan. Okay, moving on. Before that, we had Yan Xiaonan, Jessica Andrade. We love Jessica Andrade. She's very violent. She's very aggressive. She's a former champion. She always brings it. Well, tonight, she was a victim of her own success. Her style against Yan Xiaonan, it's always the same way. Go forward, take away the range, pressure her, get inside the pocket, make it a brawl. Okay, and that's all well and good. But when that fight started, you saw that Yan Xiaonan looked a far better, improved version of herself. The jabs, the right hands, the kicks, they were fast, they were sharp, they were accurate, and they were deadly. She looked very, very dangerous. Andrade kept chasing, kept going forward, kept pressuring, and she was running after her. And she ran onto that right hand. Yan Xiaonan backed up, planted her feet, boom, straight right, beautiful shot, both dropped her like a sack of potatoes, jumped on her. It was a great stoppage. You know, the referee made the right call. I understand Andrade was, you know, perhaps protesting the stoppage, but when you drop like that, you know what I mean? And then your opponent jumps on you and starts delivering follow-up blows. You can't blame the referee. So what's next for her? You never know. We might see her versus Zhang Weili in an all-Chinese affair in the featherweight division. Wouldn't that be something special? Then, okay, opening up. No. We have Movsar Evloev, Diego Lopez. Lopez took the fight on a few days' notice, going up against undefeated Movsar Evloev. Gave a massively good account of himself, right? No one expected him to win that fight. He almost knocked him out. And then he almost submitted him in the first round. Then after that, Evloev, you know, made some adjustments, made some changes. That's why he's a great fighter. That's why he was 16-0, now 17-0. But even still, right to the final bell, Lopez was threatening. He was dangerous off his back. Almost finished him with a knee bar. It was like Mohammed Makaev back in London in July. Pulling, yanking on that knee bar. To be fair, Evloev didn't look like he was in danger, wasn't grimacing, didn't look like he was in pain. But well done to him. He's 17-0. Diego Lopez proved that he belongs in the UFC. Right, opening up the main card, Charles Jourdain versus Kron Gracie. Okay, now, I have such respect for the Gracie family. You have to. They founded the UFC. Their name, their legacy, their heritage within martial arts and mixed martial arts truly is something to be held in high regard. So I choose my words very carefully because he's also the son of the legendary Rickson Gracie. But that fight was kind of a relic performance. It was a throwback. It looked like this was 1993. You have to be well-rounded. We're not specialists anymore. You can be a specialist, but you got to have other skills to back it up. He was walking forward rather nonchalantly, trying to just grab Charles Jourdain. Jourdain, on the flip side, had a great, very disciplined game plan. Didn't throw any kicks, because obviously you can catch those kicks and get taken down. Kept it all with the boxing. Boom, boom, boom. Beautiful, short, fast combinations, going to the body. Boom, boom, boom. 4 or 5 shots, and then get on his bike. Played it very safe, very strategic, very disciplined. And it's not easy to do that. Kron Gracie kept walking forward. He pulled guard a couple of times. Jourdain did the right thing. You know, just clammed up, shelled up. If you don't play the jiu-jitsu game with somebody that's trying to submit you, it's very, very hard. And Jourdain's a black belt himself. He knows how to defend these things. This isn't 1993. People know omoplatas, leg locks, triangles, arm bars, you name it. We have seen it and we know how to defend it. And Kron looked very one-dimensional. he also looked, and he didn't look particularly motivated. You know, he was moving in slow motion on occasions. Listen, I'm not kicking a man while he's down. When he made his UFC debut against Alex Caceres, got him with a rear naked choke, great performance. His follow-up fight against Cub Swanson was a great fight, and he pushed Cub Swanson to the limit. Cub Swanson is in the Hall of Fame for one of his fights with the Korean Superboy, I think it is. He's been there, seen it, done it all. Cub Swanson is a very experienced mixed martial artist. When Kron Gracie fought him, he was pushed to the limit. Okay, Kron was motivated. He was sharp. He was fast. He was aggressive. He was swinging shots. Yeah, he's not as good of a striker, but he was using the striking to try and get the takedowns and the clinches. We didn't see any of that. In fact, we saw him butt scooting on his back, trying to engage in Cub Swanson, with Charles Jourdain that way. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that. So, listen, it was a very, very tough night at the office for Kron Gracie. And if he's going to continue to compete in this sport, he needs to do some work. Before that, a notable fight, top of the prelims, Matt Frevola versus Drew Dober. What a fight. We knew that one was going to deliver. Simple as that. Drew Dober's awesome. You know, Matt Frevola, the steamroller, always brings it as well. We knew somebody was going to get knocked out, and that they did. Listen, Dober was a victim of his own success. Against Bobby Green, he went forward. He was getting pieced up. He was getting caught. He was getting cracked on that beautiful jawline that he has. But he was able to take it. Okay, and he was happy to take a few to when he got in the pocket and boom, landed one beautiful, crisp, hard right hand, put Bobby Green to sleep. And because of that, he thought the same thing was going to happen. So he was cutting off the cage. He was pressuring him. He was corralling him up against the fence. He was doing all the right things. However, Frevola, jab, right hook from last week, swung with everything he had, connected, boom, dropped him hard, follow-up shots, jumped all over him. Dober protested. I get it. He was still conscious. He had blood dripping out of his head and nose and all the rest of it. I understand the competitor, but I agree with the referee in that situation. So there it is. Aljamain Sterling. And still, I mean, what a fight that was. What a performance. You know, I feel for the guy because people in the crowd in New Jersey, where he's from, weren't cheering him. Listen, he's playing the heel, you know. And maybe he's not doing it with the most, with the best comedic timing, shall we say. You know, he seems to be rubbing people up the wrong way. But we watch the UFC. We watch fights to see fights. Personalities are great, you know, and he certainly has one. He has a personality, that's for damn sure. But maybe some people aren't feeling it. But the fighting is there. First and foremost, he delivered a sensational performance. He looked better than ever. And Sean O'Malley's going to have a very, very tough time defeating that man. But still, that conversation is for another day. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't done so. And let me know what you think of those fights and my comments in the comments. You guys take care. See you soon.